welcome to Pox United. This is Moles1909. Tonight I'm going to be taking you through a guide for an Ironfist Dwarf deck. It's going to be quite a simple deck with no real tricks to it. It's not going to be a top ranking deck, I wouldn't have thought, but it should be fairly decent. So anybody that wants to follow this, hopefully you'll be able to learn something about it. Oh, my computer's running slow apparently. Okay, so when I say a dwarf deck, that doesn't mean it has to only contain dwarfs. You will generally include a couple of runes that are not dwarfs, just to make the deck more competitive. I'll start off with the Angel of Mercy. This in particular is a champ that I like. One of the main reasons I like her is the fact that she has heal mass and the fact that she has cleansing aura. I run Intensify and Cleansing Aura on the Angel. Amplify Healing, Heal Self, they are legitimate upgrades, but in most decks you're going to want Intensify and Cleansing Aura, because once she intensifies she's got 7 range and a fair amount of damage. So she's quite a good angel overall. She's not one of the angels, but she is obviously fitting an angel deck with improved range and Commander Paladin. She works quite well in Paladin or Angel decks. That's not the purpose I run her in a Dwarf deck. The purpose I run her in a Dwarf deck is for a bit of range, a bit of magic damage, and of course the Cleansing Aura, which is one of the downsides to Dwarfs. Unless you put a Violin, they don't really have any viable cleanse. So the Angel is one that I would recommend in quite a few Ironfist decks, and I run her, generally one of her, in most Ironfist decks that I use. The Angel of Protection again is a legitimate pick in an Ironfist deck. It's not something that I currently run due to the fact that she's 84 Nora, and you do have a few other expensive champs. Now she is a good champ. Of course, with all the other angels, she has Intensify. Scorn is something I don't like on her. Trail Hallowed Ground is obviously a very good thing to have. And all in all, she is a legitimate pick, but I'm not going to focus too much on her as I don't run her in any of my decks at the moment. Now, when I say in a dwarf deck, it still doesn't mean that you run no dwarfs. So I don't personally run any barbarians, but there may be one or two worth considering, such as the hero. The hero is always one to consider, despite its high Nora cost, simply because of combo attack devastate, and she can work quite well in a dwarf deck because you do have quite a lot of AP gen in a dwarf deck, and with battle leader and also what's the other ability called, rampage, it can be quite a powerful champ to deal with. The armourer again, it's something that's been power creeped somewhat. It is still a rune that you can run in ranked, because although it has crutched on enhanced armor in the past, in itself, with the fact that it has defender 3, it's not totally terrible. Now realistically, if you're running something like the armourer, you are going to lose. So whether you want to play a theme deck, or whether you want to win, or whether you want a mix of the two, that's a good decision to take. I personally try a mix between the two. I don't like to run full meta when I'm running Ironfist, but I don't like to run a totally weak deck that is going to make me lose. The Aspect is another runnable rune, and something that's always worth considering. I don't personally find her worth running, because although she has Divine Favour, Divert, Rebuke and Sever Summons, which are all good abilities, I find her to be a bit high in Nora, and also the fact that she doesn't do much damage. When she had attack charged, or charged attack rather, she was quite a good champ for about a week, and then when they removed charged attack again, she became, let me just get rid of this, sorry. Battle Matron is another dwarf that's kind of being power creeped really. You can run the champ, it's got Cleanse, Surge Dwarf, but again, to be honest, unless you're running just a theme deck, it's not really going to win you games. One champ that used to be worth running that is probably not worth running now is the Brewmaster. Some people, such as Devil's Wrath, would say it's still an efficient champ. When it's enraged, it still does a fair amount of damage. Assault and Antagonize has always been a good combination on that. I just find that it doesn't actually do enough to warrant a place in the deck. If you're running specifically a drunk deck, then yeah, sure, in a theme deck you may want to run the Brewmaster. But I personally find that I wouldn't run the Brewmaster in a normal dwarf deck just because there's better options. Let me get to some. Sorry about this. Let me get to some of those better options. The Deep Miner, although it is extremely high in Nora now, and it's not an auto deploy by any means, it's quite often still worth running. 44 Nora is a lot, and it does take a long time to pay itself off. But if you draw it, say, first or second turn, it can still win a game. The Dwarven King, that's always a good one to look at. 100 Nora. And there's a lot of ways to insta-kill champs now. So the Dwarven King, generally these days, is a 1x include in a dwarf deck. Simply for the fact in some games, or you're against an opponent such as SP, a Dwarven King can be really useful. When you're in a game against FS or Drown or some other crap like that, you may not even want to deploy the King. I only ever generally deploy the King if I need a heal as well, so it has two uses in that sense. One of the key runes in a dwarf deck, as I'm sure everybody's aware, is the Mortar Crew. You'll see it's quite light on HP, only 39 hit points. So with only the 39 hit points, you do have to be kind of careful with it. Now that's not too difficult considering it does have 8 range though. The favoured upgrades generally on the dwarf would be burn and health. Some people choose knockback over burn, but I find burn to be a bit more reliable than the knockback generally. Another good one to look at would be a Dwarven Sergeant. It's something that I used to run all the time. Then I found that the 5 speed on it was really, really annoying. Because it has so many abilities that you want to use. It has quite high damage as well, and scramble. And you just don't have enough Nora to drive, attack, and get in range of everybody else. So although the Dwarven Sergeant is really good, I find it to be sometimes not worth running due to the fact it has only 5 speed. What I'm going to do in this deck, I think, I'm going to centre it around some AP gen in there. So I think I will be including at least one Sergeant in the deck. Another key rune for the deck is still the Dwarven Sharpshooter. A lot of people stop running this guy, but believe it or not, he's still one of the best champs. He offers you detection. A lot of people find that unobstructed view is still a good rune. I personally find that it's better to run 2 of these fellas. With Lay Trap and Far Shot 2. They're a good ranged option. They can do quite a lot of damage, and they're also good at defending fonts and detecting. You'll be very surprised how well a sharpshooter can contest the font with these traps, because you can spam them every 2 turns. The Battle Mage, or Elemental War Staff as it's been renamed, it is a legitimate option. The only downside to it, because it is an extremely efficient champ, is that it only has 10 damage. So I would say it's probably unlikely that I'll include it for that reason alone. A lot of people find it worth running at least one Global Rock Eater in a dwarf deck. For the simple fact that it sometimes can just sit in a font and harass and get on people's nerves. Now, if you're running a dwarf deck and you don't want to put any other runes in, then great. Stick to your principles, I guess. but he's always worth considering. The Ironfist Agent is a newer rune that Ironfist has taken. It's a very good option actually. It comes with Stealth and Shadow Spawn, it comes with Shatter, Dodge. I think my preferred upgrades on it would probably be Shatter and Dodge, because it has Stealth already, so Shadow Spawn is not an essential upgrade. Deploy Landmine is an absolutely amazing ability. The amount of people that forget that the mine is down and then take the 12 damage and get knocked back into something is quite hilarious actually. So I do believe that the Ironfist Agent has got to be worth considering in most Ironfist decks. A lot of people find they have to run expensive runes such as the Inquisitor Magnus. Now I personally don't think Inquisitor Magnus is even very good. Sure, he's got Adaptive, he's got Bounty Hunter, he's got Resist Magic, so yeah, he's not a bad champ, but I personally find he's not really worth running. A staple of the deck, again, is your Ironfist Ministers. Very cheap, it's only 66 Nora, and you can either pick Health, or Invigorate, or Resist Magic. This guy has generally got Invigorate, and in a Dwarf deck you'd probably run Call to Arms, because with the Ironfist decks you really need to be efficient if you're going to win, because there's so many better decks out there. Master Axeman, again, is an absolutely key rune in the deck. He's probably one of your most expensive champs that you'll be wanting to run, and I would personally run him with Punish and Hostile. A lot of people prefer Impenetrable though. Impenetrable does mean that he's very hard to disarm, unless of course they have a spell, which means that obviously he gets the provision buff constantly. It also stops him being target of other abilities that could either damage or insta-kill him. So they're both viable options, and if you want to keep your expensive champs alive, then Impenetrable is probably the better option. The only trouble is he only has 11 damage, so Hostile can be very useful at times. Again, the Night Watch has kind of been recently overshadowed by the Ironfist Agent, but it is still a useful champ. It has Stealth, Knockout. Oh, it's got Shadow Strike now, I never knew that. It's also got 12 damage, and it comes into play Shadow Spawned. Well, the fact that it has Knockout and Stun means that if you get that first turn in a middle font, you've pretty much killed that champ before it's even unstunned. The Priest of Valdak, again, is another key rune, always worth considering in pretty much any Dwarf deck, really. Divine Favour 3, 63 Nora, also has healed champs when it comes into play. It does die quite easily, but sometimes you can use it as a roadblock as well. But it's always worth running at least one, I find, in an Ironfist deck, because a lot of people find it very frustrating when you heal your champs. Also, the Stalwart Defender. A lot of people don't even think about this guy. Now, you look at him, you think, oh, 5 speed, 8 damage, and yeah, without looking into him, you think he's a pile of crap. Realistically, he's 55 Nora, and he has Font Defender. Font Defender means your font cannot be contested. Realistically, a lot of people waste spells on him. Pretty much every time I play with a Stalwart Defender, if you're against ST, they'll Gale Force him out of a font. If you're against UD, they'll quite often, they will Fading Recollection him, and that pretty much pays the champ's cost off, so however long he's been sitting in that font is pretty much free Nora for yourself. The fact he has Shrine Defender makes him a really good first turn deploy. What it means is he'll then get up to 7 speed with that 2 speed buff, with another 1 AP for the Ironfist Shrine bonus, which basically means if there's a font that's 8 spaces away, which on many maps is true, you can get straight in that font and the opponent cannot even contest it. With Loyalty, he has quite a lot of health, quite a lot of defense and quite a lot of damage. Looks as if this recording software is messing around with my computer, but I'm not sure why it's doing that. So those are the main champs that I'm going to be focusing on. One other one I'll quickly mention is actually Talga. A lot of people run Talga, and yeah, he can be a bit of a pain in the arse when you're playing against him, especially with his equip. The way I look at it is he's 94 Nora, the equip's another sort of 30 Nora, although you get the refund, and it's 2 slots to have both in there. So although he may be a hard champ to take down with shielded and quite a lot of HP, I never really run Talga these days. It's something definitely to consider, because he's Ironfist's only real initiative options. Has multi-attack, has alternate range damage. I would probably run him with shielded and bodyguard if I was running him. And where is Ewan? I can't find him. Okay, Ewan. Again, I struggle to warrant to include Ewan in the deck. Again, 94 Nora. He does have very good damage stats, so he has 13 damage, 7 speed, 4 defense, and a good amount of HP. He does also have block 2, surge enemy, impenetrable. So he is a very good champ. He can heal and cleanse some of your other champs. He can also walk over cliffs and stuff, which is quite useful to have in Iron Fist, and has Battle Master. So he is a legitimate pick, but if you have too many of these expensive champs in the deck, you will just not be able to win. Seriously. What I'm going to do now is quickly put together a deck. I would say, with a deck like this, you want to be running around 16 or 17 champs, with 2 minors included. So just quickly, I'm going to get a deck up and start putting it together for you guys. Okay, so one thing I always find worth running is that Angel of Mercy. And what I'm going to do is pretty much fill up this deck and then remove the bad options afterwards. So the Dwarven Miners, again, very good. I've not actually read much into this Dwarven Alchemist. He is fairly cheap by the looks of it. Has Firebomb, Deflect, Set Ablaze is not bad. It may be worth considering to run him, but I will probably take him out in the final cut. Now, this little guy here, I forgot to mention him just a moment ago. The Dwarven Excavator is one of the best champs in the game. For 47 Nora, you will not believe how mobile this guy is. He has Tunnel Earth 2. He has Tunnel Earth 3 as an upgrade. He also has Build Mine, so he can stick relics and fonts. They contest the font as well, these relics. And they can also be used by your champs to tunnel around the map. Now, my main reason for running the Excavator is because he contests people's fonts, and because he's so mobile, he does not die to them either. And on multi-font maps, you'll find him hopping all around the map into 4 or 5 different fonts, contesting, laying relics, and it just starves your opponent of Nora. I've not really ever played a game where I've deployed the Excavator and he's not paid off his cost. Saying that, I'd only run the 1, not the 2. Again, with the Dwarven King, I'd run 1, not 2. I would always run 2 Sharpshooters. Always worth running 2 Mortar Crews. The Ethereal Priestess, let's have a look at her. Since she got haste, she's a pretty useful option. I'd personally run Force Barrier and haste. Heal Mass, Karu's obviously nice. Soften is very good on her. What she really does is the odd heal and haste every turn. That's all she does in the deck. So on that basis, it's quite often worth running 1 of her. Would never really run 2 of her though. As you can see, the champs are filling up quite fast, so we will run out of space soon. The Dwarven Sergeant, I think, is probably worth including 1 time over. but we may review that again in just a minute. The Magister is always worth considering. A lot of people don't like the Magister and think he's weak. My view on the Magister, or Magister, however you want to say it, is that he's a useful champ. He can be quite survivable, he can do a fair amount of damage, and he's quite efficient at 75 Nora. So with the Magister, it's take him or leave him really. If you're going to run quite a lot of cheap spells in the deck, you probably want to run 2. I'm going to stick these battle mages in, and I'll probably take at least one, if not both of them, out in a minute. The way I find it's best to build a deck is to put all the runes you want to consider running in the deck, and then see how many runes you need to remove, and then remove the worst ones in the deck. So we're going to consider Ewan, as he's the hero. We're definitely going to run 2 Axemen. We're definitely going to run 2 Ironfist Agents. We're probably going to run 1 Ironfist Minister. We're going to probably run these Night Watchers as well. Now whether I run 1 or 2 is another question. Now this is where the deck gets difficult, because you can see already I've put 23 champs in the deck. Now quite clearly we're only going to be running around 16, 17, so a lot of these champs are going to need to come out. The Stalwart Defender I would probably only run 1 of. Let's find a CP'd one. Okay, I don't have one. Now this is where you have a problem. You have a champ such as the Protector, which is extremely overpowered. Now have the issue, it's not a dwarf, it's a construct, so it doesn't actually fit the theme of the deck, but you want to run the OP champ. Have you got enough room in the deck? Not really. We may need to consider running him, because I don't think there's all that much range in the deck, but I'll consider that in a minute. So as you can see, I'll probably end up running just the 1 Priest of Valdak. The Silver Clan Engineer is kind of useful with Nora Minor and Motivate. The only thing I would say with that is if you're not running the Protector, it's not worth running. And I don't think I'm going to have room to get both in the deck. Again, as you can see, we're struggling for slots, so I'll consider Talga, but again, he'll probably come out. The Veil Walker is a 2 times auto include. It's not actually a dwarf, it's a human, but with Tariff and Soften, or even one of the other upgrades, which is Vaporize or Soul Sift, it's just an extremely good champ. Cast Despoil is amazing. You can get all those Nora Globes, and it stops them casting AoEs, or damaging spells, or insta-kills. And she's just generally a good champ. Okay, so I've now got the task of removing nearly half the runes I've put in to make this a competitive deck. So straight away I think we're going to start off by kind of setting a theme for the deck. And I need to see how much range I've got in the deck really. What I'm going to run is quite a cheap dwarf deck, so I don't want too many expensive champs. What I'm going to do, I think, I'm going to remove the Ewan and the Talga. Oh my god. Now it's difficult. I think the Night Watchers are going to have to come out. Although they're good, I think the Agent just kind of beats them really. Okay, I need to still take out a fair few runes here. I think the Battle Mage may have to come out. Okay, so we've got a fair amount of range in the deck actually. So it may not be essential to have a couple of these other ones. I want to run this Alchemist because I've never used it before, but I don't know. I'm kind of thinking maybe it's not worth running. Okay, I think the Alchemist is going to have to come out. We want to try and take out another 3 champs, but we're in a real trouble here. Okay, so you think in an average game you're probably only going to need the 1 Veil Walker, so it may be worth dropping to one of them. The Ironfist Agent, oh god, such a good rune. What I'm going to do, I'm going to stick on 19 for just a moment, and I'm going to have a look at the spells. Another dwarf that I didn't mention, which I didn't even go over there, is the little hero. The little, oh god, what's its name? I've forgotten its name, let me just have a look at it. The Attendant Squire, there we go. The Attendant Squire, I would say, in a Dwarf deck is normally a 2x auto include, or at least it used to be. With the fact it's got Invigorate 2 and fits the heroes, it's a really good rune. Now in a deck where you're not running either hero, it's probably not worth running. So most Ironfist decks, I like to run at least 1 Divinity's Touch and 1 Blink. They both do a similar job, but I always like to have 1 of each just in case. Bane Blast is probably a 2x auto include because it's only 40 Nora and it is your AoE. Gravity Flux is worth considering because it can help you get off a Warcry in a standoff. Glorious Charge is just a generally useful rune, it grants mobility, but probably not worth running anymore. Grintmore Hymn is actually worth considering even in a Dwarf deck, for the simple purpose that a Grintmore Hymn protects you from damage, and that could save one of your key champs. So if your Dorman King is probably going to die, you can cast that and it could save it. I don't think I'm going to have room in this particular deck for it, but most of the champs are quite cheap, so hopefully shouldn't have a problem. If possible, I like to get an Earthquake in, but again, may not have the room for it. Sapping Beam is probably the best spell you've got. You need 2 of them in any deck. At least 1 Macadamize. If you've got room for 2, then get them in. Again, Open the Earth, worth considering. 8 damage, a bit of lava, instantly 12 damage. It's also a Perseverance counter, one that's well worth thinking of. RD, of course, as you all know about already, as being a key rune. Hammer Strike as well, being a very important rune. As you can see, we have not got space for all these runes, so a lot of these spells are absolutely essential. We're going to need to try and cut down a few more champs. In an ideal world, I'd like to run Might of Ironfist. For one reason, it is loss of life, so you can use it on an enemy. Plus, you can use it on your own champ and do quite a lot of damage yourself. Yep, so that's it for spells really. For relics, you're always going to want your banner and 2 Nora Mines. It's also worth considering the Sepulchre of Kings. It's quite a good Fonku tester because it gains HP for amount of dwarves you have. But if you're running out of space, you definitely don't want to consider it. So right now you can see I've completely run out of room, and I need to get 2 Nora mines in. We're not going to run any equipment in a deck at all. So I need to remove 2 champions, and then we'll be good to go. Trouble is, which champions do I want to remove? I am considering removing the priestess, actually. I'm considering the stalwart, and I'm considering the sergeant. They're all very good picks. This is the trouble with an Ironfist deck. You have so many good runes and no real themes that you need to fit everything in. I am going to take a gamble with this, I think. I'm going to go against every instinct I have that tells me to remove the Ironfist agents. And I'm actually going to remove... Oh, God. Okay, I'm going to remove the Ironfist agents. So after all that deliberation, we've finally settled on the deck. The only other thing really is to just quickly tab on the upgrades, which we've pretty much already discussed, so I won't go over all of those again. And then I'm going to jump into and get a ranked game in the lobby. I believed I may be unranked on Hot Iron since the most recent rank reset, so probably only get a noob. But it should allow me to test out this deck and see what sort of power level it's on. Just by looking at it, it doesn't look as if it's going to be a top 50 deck by any means, but it should be fairly competitive. I'll be back in just a moment with the game. Welcome back to Potch United. It's Moles1909 here, playing as Hot Iron. This is now continued from the guide on how to make and play a dwarf deck. As you can see, I've drawn a first turn Stalwart Defender. Now, it's always tempting when you get something like that to send it straight to this middle font. Now, again, that is a viable strategy against Underdepths, because the only trouble is I have not actually drawn another champ that can go for that font. Against Underdepths, quite often they will Fading Recollection you. Now, the thing is, if that dwarf is in this font and it's got the buff and they Fading Recollection it, it keeps the buff even though it's been Fading Recollection, so you still have a dwarf with about 15 damage and about 60 health. So it's pretty useful. Okay, so it looks as if this guy could possibly be running spiders. Yep, definitely looks like he's running spiders. He has gone for a Protect the Nest early on, which is actually quite annoying. I have got my Stalwarts now to head for that font, which gives me a big advantage. So as you notice, he's now 7 speed, because he's in Shrine Defender zone. Where is it? Shrine Defender. He'll get the 1 AP extra as well, because he's in an Ironfist font zone. So that he'll get 8 speed towards this font. He'll be there in 2 turns. So unless this guy now deploys an initiative champ, he is in trouble. So as predicted, I am in the Uncommon League on Hot Iron, as I've not played on it since the ranks were reset, I don't believe. And, okay, this guy did actually have enough Nora to deploy. One thing when you're playing Ironfist, always remember you get that 1 AP for being in that zone. So don't stay on 4, stay on 3 and get yourself in that zone. You want to make the most of Carouse as well. And you want to get these traps down pretty quickly because they come every 2 turns. A lot of people don't run the Stalwart, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. Unless this guy runs some sort of Banish or some other crap like that, he's going to be in trouble when I have the font. Okay, he's, by the looks of it, taking the phase spider up to my font. Okay, so let's get some relics on the font. Probably shouldn't have bunched them up because he can just use an AoE. We can either hit the phase spider, which is almost going to kill it, or we can hit this little void spider, both of which are legitimate tactics. I think to avoid the threat of him going for my font, I'm going to hit the phase spider. Oh my god. Okay, so I didn't see the phase spider going corporeal. I guess you should pay attention to the combat log. And I guess you should also pay attention to the conditions to avoid making stupid mistakes like that. That was a bit of an error from myself there. Okay, so the Dwarven Defender here has 67 HP, 4 defense and 17 damage. He has gone straight into my font. I can deploy there. And I can hit him for 16 damage here. And I can hit him with a piercing shot here as well. Okay, so now remembering that that is incorporeal, I will make sure I get a magic champ up here. Okay, so what we're going to do is put a trap next to the sharpshooter, so if this spider comes over, and then we're just going to hit. I have a feeling the spider may run into this corner of the font, so I'm just going to lay that down. And if he does run it there, it's pretty much dead. Okay, so as expected, he has sent it straight up to my font. I didn't actually realise it had teleport. He does need a relic to contest though. Okay, so he fell for the trap. Haha. He ran straight into the trap, thinking he could attack the sharpshooter, and he's now slowed his own spider and possibly left it set up for a kill over this one. Huh, okay. Doesn't look as if he's going to move this spider, so it's going to be dead. And he doesn't seem to be sacrificing or anything. One thing to remember with Ironfist is Bane Blast no longer hits relics. So unfortunately, you cannot kill these relics with Bane Blast. Okay, so the guy did not draw a relic. He cannot kill my... I cannot contest my font, rather. Now I'm a magic champ, so I can either hex or magic attack him. I'm going to hex him this turn, which is just going to hold him up for next turn. We are then going to just kill this and collect the fat globe. Tariff kicks in as well, you may notice. What we're then going to do is put an artillery strike up here and sapping beam on this little spider. To be honest, we probably don't need to, but we're going to do it just for the lulz. Then going to block off this other spider with the Nora Miner. So he's probably going to teleport into the font next to this champ. Now I'm just trying to remember where I put the artillery strike. Yep, so I'm not going to hit my own champ, that's always good. Now this is the kind of point where you see a couple of your champs have lost a bit of health, and it's always a good position here to lay down a champ. So I want to now look to deploy either a Dwarven King or a Priest of Valdak next turn if possible. Okay, so he's cocooned in the font, and that's going to keep it alive for one turn. But it will then come back alive on my turn, so it will still die. Okay, so although we're short of Nora for the king at the moment, we can lay another trap. And we can then kill the spider and get this globe. He's lost another 7 Nora for tariff, so you are already seeing a massive benefit. We may as well proc these traps. And then we'll get the healer down. Alright, so next turn the phase spider's dead. We can hit this little dude. At the moment we're just going to keep the stalwart in the font, just in case he's got a stealth that I didn't realise anything about. And we're going to also look to deploy the Priest of Valdak next turn. I can proc some of these traps and get the priest down. One mistake people make as well with the Stalwart Defender is that they leave it in the font for the whole game. The idea with the Stalwart is that in the early game he sits in that font and he holds it for you. I don't quite understand what this guy's doing, so this game's pretty much over now. Okay, that's a bit random. Very random. Okay, so on a map like this, you're not really going to use your excavator. Unless you want to send him up here, which is a viable tactic. Okay, so over here. Bam. It's not got vaporize, is it? Yes, it has. Damn. Okay, I wanted the miner kill, but because it's vaporized, I can't. Now we need to think about whether or not we can kill that, which I'm not one for calculation. We're just going to hit it and see what happens. At this point the game's pretty much won. Just to make sure of it, we're going to get the cheap champ with AP gen down. Because if I need a power turn, that will provide it. So at this point in the game, you may have noticed this Veil Walker has just sat at top. And other than killing the phase spider, which was already half dead by the time it got to the font, it has procced Tariff about 5 times. So it's cost him almost 50 Nora just from getting the early Veil Walker. That is why she is so important to run, because Tariff is simply an amazing ability. If you get a couple of early kills, it gives you a massive Nora advantage. Okay, at this point in the game, it's pretty much sewn up. He's given me a Warcry target as well, so this should be pretty much game over at this point. What we're going to do is proc these traps. And then use Macadamize. Okay, so that allows him to get 2 hits off. Always remember with the Warcry, make sure you move your champs in first. So at this point you've got quite a lot of damage. You've pretty much killed everything. The game is pretty much won. You wouldn't say it's all because of this deck, but you would say the deck has countered him pretty well. Oh, okay, I didn't realise it had that ability. Yeah, that was a pretty fail. Okay, so this guy's now resorted to wasting spells when he can't do anything. So he's just used 2 spells just to kill that one champ, and his champ is dead next turn, so it's all good. Okay, not much to say at this point. The Warcry goes through the shield, so you don't need to worry about that. We can then just hit this a few times, he's going to die. Bam, you die. Okay, the guy has now surrendered, so we can move on and have one more ranked game, just so we can see how strong this deck is. I'll be back with that in just a second. Welcome back to Pox United, it's Moles1909 here, and we're doing another commentary. With full faction Ironfist guide to playing a Dwarf deck. This is the second ranked game now with them. Playing under my alternate account, Hot Iron. I've actually drawn Sparky Dog, who I believe is a member of the same guild as myself. Okay, he's moved to another guild, so he's not getting a friendly quit. Okay, so he's playing full faction SL. Should be an interesting match. Dwarfs versus Lizards. Always has been a rivalry there. I'll try to explain more on the upgrades and why I choose them in this game, as I kind of didn't focus much on that in the last game. If he takes his turn. No rush sparks. Alright, there we go. Any feedback you have on the commentaries, any feedback you have on the guides, please do post them in the thread or on the comments. because they help us in working out how to improve it and make it a better experience for you guys. So straight away with Iron Fist, what I'd say to you is if you get a font such as this with a middle font, get a map such as this with a middle font, you want to try and get a first turn Axeman, and if you do, get it down. Now hopefully I can draw an Excavator to go top. Obviously not yet, but next turn, if I draw the Excavator, I will send it up the top, and it will be in his font before he knows it. And just for anyone that didn't realise, he's taken a Skeezic Filcher. Okay, so I've changed the upgrades on my Master Axeman. Normally, on an Axeman, I'd run Punish and Hostile, but I've chosen Impenetrable for the simple reason that he's one of the most expensive champs in the deck, and I want to try and keep him alive. Oh wow. It seems this guy may be running some sort of bad Skeezic deck, by the looks of it. Skeezic Filcher is really good, and he's probably gonna. Oh wow, we've got the Dwarven Excavator, so this is pretty much game over now, I'd say. Always remember to put the mine down first turn with the Excavator. If you forget, then it messes up the cooldowns. So this sniper is pretty useless. I'm not sure why he's running it. He may just be running a cheap champ deck and trying to swarm me with them all. But other than that, I don't really see what the plan is with this Skeezic sniper, to be honest. The Filcher is a really good champ though. So next turn, you see he's got the Stealth champ. I will automatically now deploy the Sharpshooter for detection and also the traps, and that will reveal his Filcher, which means I'm not going to be surprised by an insta-kill relic, insta-kill equip, sorry, I can't remember what it's called, the Forbidden Fruit, that's the one. I'm not going to be surprised by the fruit because I'll have detection there to make sure of it. Okay, this guy's taking forever on his turns. Okay, so more on the Dwarven Excavator. You can see that 7 spaces for 4 AP. He's going to get 6, so he's not going to get into the font, but he's going to be mighty close. And within about 3 or 4 turns, he's going to be in their font. And they're not going to be able to kill that unless they send 2 or 3 champs up there to kill it. It seems this guy's just running the clock, I'm not sure why. Oh wow, another Skeezic sniper at the last second. So yeah, it looks like this guy's just running a cheap champ deck, by the looks of it. We can only hope now that he's not drawn the Forbidden Fruit and allowed the champ to pump the AP up or whatever. Always got to remember to mine, or tunnel, sorry. Just make sure I'm not in his range. No, I'm not. Oh, okay, the snipers are heading towards my Axeman, which is not good. I would hope they'd have headed this way. Seems this guy's just running an extremely cheap deck, so there's going to be a lot of meat in the way. So I need to try and get my champs down as quickly as possible. This deck should be okay at dealing with this because my deck is full of cheap champs also. And I don't really need to deploy mine here, but I'm going to just in case. Always try and get the Carews down ASAP, because the Axeman's kind of weak without it. Okay, so the Axeman is a lot stronger now. And detection is up, so if he tries to come in And if he tries to knock out, he's going to fail. Unless knockout's 2 range still, which it may well be. The idea here is probably to send that Dwarven Miner to the top font, just to sit in the font in case he sends another filter up there or something. Probably get the banner down just in case. Okay, so he's now got 2 netters, a filter and 2 snipers. He looks like he's going to leave that top font for me to get. I'll be there within 2 turns. The only bad thing for that netter is that it's 5 speed. With the Axeman having Assault and Punish. Okay, the filter, I don't know what that's doing there. It looks as if he's forgotten that the sharpshooter has detection. And, wow, yeah. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. Okay, so the miner can use the mine to teleport up to top. And next turn, I am in his font. Okay, so the only thing to be aware of now is that these snipers are going to start to come into play soon. Okay, so you can see these traps build up quite quickly. Evasive 3 is going to keep that Axeman alive against these netters, and the snipers are soon going to get there. However, I have a feeling the snipers might end up hitting my shrine in a minute, so I'm not going to scry. The filter is now stuck. He can't disengage, as he's just found out, because of Punish. He obviously didn't realise that it has Punish, and he is probably now ruining trying to run. Okay, Sand Sprout, okay. Okay, so if he leaves those 2 netters there, I can then get both of them within the same... okay, he's surrendered. So yeah, that was fun. I guess I'll have to play one more. Welcome back to Pox United, it's Moles1909 here. Okay, I've just drawn the same guy that I've just played. So, should potentially be another easy win for this cheap dwarf deck. As you can see, the deck I've made is not too expensive. There's not really any LEs or anything scary like that in the deck. So most people should be able to run a cheap version of this without too much power. Oh wow, he just used a March of the Skeezik. I'm not quite sure why, to be honest. Okay, so on a map like this, again, the Axeman is a perfect first turn draw, and again, probably the Mortar Crew or the Sharpshooter is perfect second turn draw. You can see that Ironfist Dwarves are quite a fun deck to play. Oh wow, he's straight in the font. What the hell? Oh, okay, that's why he used the March. Okay, that's fine. So I'll go for the Sharpshooter as he has got Stealth Jump. Next turn we're going to either get a miner or a mine down. Probably won't even bother to contest the middle font depending on what he deploys. So let's just remember he used a spell to get in that font. He's now got 2 filters, so probably both in the middle font. The only trouble is they can't do anything to the Axeman unless he uses Energy Thief and nope. Okay, so he can hit the Nora Mine or he can hit my Axeman for 2 damage. Whatever he prefers. The filters are probably at the back of the font somewhere, because he knows now, after that last game, he knows that I have detection on the sharpshooter. So he used one of his key spells, March of the Skeezik, to get in this font, and he only held it for 1 turn. Didn't deploy it, so he's not going to hold it. So it was a bad play by him, and he is probably going to lose because of it. Although he's got cheap champs, you can't waste your key spells. Luckily I also have cheap champs, barring the Axeman. Okay, so we're back to this guy running the clock and taking very long turns. Looks like he's running through his own filters and losing AP. Okay, they're quite close, so I'm going to send a sharpshooter this way. Damn. Okay, at this point you would much prefer to have your font at the bottom, so I need to get that. Okay. Energy Thief is quite a bugger actually, to be honest. But these 6 damage filters are not really going to cause me a problem, I wouldn't have thought. The only way these filters are going to cause me a problem is if he has a Forbidden Fruit and uses the other filter for Energy Thief. Even then he can only kill the sharpshooter by doing that. Okay, a Sand Sprout. Again, he's using a lot of Nora. 1 damage. Wow. Every time he attacks with these filters, he is losing defense. So, although, yeah, I may well be blinded. That was a kind of a waste, I believe, of spell. Okay, what I'm going to do is just run around here, get off that sand. Going to get a miner down and I'm going to send it to the bottom part of the map. These filters are pretty useless in that font at the moment. Probably going to move that back 1 more just for safety. And yeah, he's not really got much he can do here. I've now got my miner, and I'm going to get that font, so I'm going to be up quite a lot of Nora. If he's got any sense, he'll go for the mine rather than my champs. If he tries to go for my champs, I will just deploy a priest or a king. And he'll be back to square one. His main threat champ is the netter. And the only champ he's got really which can pump out a lot of damage. Trouble is with the Axeman on 3 defense and evasive 3, it's not doing much damage to him even. Okay, so he's now decided that it's going to be a good idea to go for the Nora mine, because that's going to start gaining me 7 Nora per turn, or 6 at the moment. But he can't kill it this turn, he's going to have to wait till next turn. The sniper's going to start to become a problem very soon, because it does do a lot of damage. Ouch, looks like you're dead. Okay, so that's on 20 odd health. I'm going to get that straight in the font, I'm not going to mess around with it. So okay, he's going to get that globe, which is not a major problem because it's only a small globe. Instead of the priest this turn, I'm going to go for another miner. So he now needs to destroy that Nora miner. I'm going to start generating some serious Nora. At the moment, he's got absolutely no way of killing that at the moment. What he probably needs to do is run the filter back and re-stealth it, because it's not going to do any major damage to my champs. And okay, he's just going to hit my... Okay, so it may be quite difficult to demonstrate the strength of this deck without being at a decent rank. Because at the moment I'm playing against people that are not really too clued up, so we can't actually see how strong this deck is because they're playing bad decks and wasting spells. So the miners, you want to use the Karus ASAP. Probably need to get both the Axemen down. And the miners Karus the Axeman usually. At this point, I'm probably going to send the Axeman up to his netter. And probably just going to stand here and hit the filter. Okay, so I just want to get in far shot range. At this point, I don't really need to worry about the Axeman. He can't move that now. It may well move out of attack range from the sniper when it moves, and the right is going to do very little damage. At this point, there's not really much that he can do to win the game, and as predicted, because the sniper's moved down, he can't hit either of my champs. So his right is only going to hit me for 3 or 4 damage. So all his champs that are very cheap are losing out to my cheap champs, really. Now, if I was playing Ewan and Talgar, all of those champs, I wouldn't have been able to deploy as many champs as I have already, and I would have been probably losing the game because of it. So this is one reason to consider not running the heroes. Okay, he's decided to try and move, and that's game over again. So that's 3 quick games with the Ironfist deck. As you can see, it's probably not going to get me to rank 1. It's not going to be beating any real major decks, but it is a fairly decent, quite cheap to build deck that you should have quite a lot of fun with. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye bye.